Is this Sue?
This is Sue and Tim of
Hello.
the Mind Reels.
Hey, Tim. How's it going? It's Philip calling.
Yeah, it is.
Hello. How do you say your last name? Is it Riccio?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Sweet.
First question out of the box. Yes. So we're going to talk about your work with on Real Side, talking with George Romero.
Yes.
Which is very cool, because I guess apparently, well, you were in Diary of the Dead.
I was, yeah. That's how I met him originally.
Excellent. So who pitched the idea of going to Romero, and were you the one to reach out to him? How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, Raj and I, the producers of Real Side, Raj and Chris Sarka, were people I had known for a while. I worked with them on the series Rent-A-Goalie, and we'd kind of kept in touch and through the years and talked about various projects. And then, so I think I went out with Raj one night, and he told me about Real Side, and I had been in conversations already with George about maybe working together on something, and so this seemed like the perfect project. So I mentioned it to Raj, and he was excited about the idea, and then we kind of took it from there.
And he's an honorary Torontonian now.
He is, yeah. I mean, we did Diary of the Dead. I don't even know how many years ago that was. It was a long time ago, but I kept in touch with George because he lives here, and I started directing after I had done Diary of the Dead, so I would just kind of call George or email him and pick his brain about different things, and a pretty good resource to have when you're starting out as a director, for sure.
Oh, just a little bit, yeah. Excuse me while I go email George.
But he's super friendly that way, and just a really approachable guy. I didn't know any of his work when I got cast in Diary of the Dead.
Really?
So I had heard of Night of the Living Dead, but I hadn't seen it. It just kind of isn't the genre that I'm really into, and so I kind of met. We connected originally just as as artists and filmmakers, and not. So I think it kind of helped me that I wasn't. I wasn't such a super fan of his work to be, at first when I met him, so I wasn't in awe when I met him at first.
That's fair.
But I was just super impressed by him as a director, to be honest, on set. He's got a really great vibe. He creates a really trusting, fun environment to work in. He lets you be really creative as an actor, and I really appreciated that and really admired it. So it was more on, from that level that I really wanted to kind of take him on as a mentor, and so I would just kind of harass him as much as I could about filmmaking and stuff. And so it was on set that I got some of those early stories about him making Night of the Living Dead, and it just kind of blew my mind about the difference between independent filmmaking when he started in the 60s versus now, and that kind of became the basis of my episode of Real Side.
Excellent. Yeah. See, I'm trying to do the same thing with Del Toro. I mean, he's in Toronto all the time. He just doesn't respond to my emails yet.
He'd be good, for sure.
But yeah, coming to Romero like that, though, as not a super fan, that's got to be, one, it's got to be refreshing for him, and two, just speaking on terms of being artists together, that's got to be it's got to be a whole kind of different level of conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, he knows film, talking to him about film is a crash course, for sure. The knowledge he has is amazing. He broke in with, or he became known because of Night of the Living Dead, but he was just really interested in filmmaking as a young man, and had a lot of ideas that he wanted to make. And then I think when Night of the Living Dead became such a success, he was thrown into that genre and became known for that genre, but his interest is certainly very varied. Most of his favorite films, he showed me clips, and we would talk about them, and their films I had never heard of. I still couldn't tell you what they were. Very strange, expressionistic, European things. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and he seems like he still has fun doing what he does, too, which is different from some people. It's still, everything's a passion project for him.
Yeah, I mean, you just bring up film to him, and he lights up, and he'll just, you can talk to him for hours about it.
That was so cool. Yeah, because it ends up that everybody will say Night of the Living Dead is my favorite, but mine my name is actually just blanked on it, where it's Night something, and it's about motorcycles and a circus, and it's just like a Renaissance fair on motorbikes, basically, with Ed Harris and Tom Savini. That's like my favorite Romero film. It's amazing. So you guys talked about film. You talked about his creative process. What can we look forward to seeing in the episode?
So the episode, essentially, through our early discussion, we were talking a lot about what it was like to make independent film on film. Back in the day with much different tools than we use today. So, and then through those conversations, we discovered that he had a film company really early on, before Night of the Living Dead, with the guys he produced Night of the Living Dead with, and they're in the episode as well. And but there was a fire. I think it was a fire, and they lost. They lost a lot of their early work.
Oh,
and one of George's his very first feature film was actually a series of short vignettes, and one of those vignettes was called Expostulations. And so we decided, because he had memories of it, but there was no hard copy of it, we decided that we would make our episode around recreating Expostulations, which was one of George's very first works.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's what we do during the episode. We try to make it in the way that George made it in the early 60s. So we use some of the old cameras and film stock, and then we go into the old editing room, and we try to edit in the way that George used to back in the day. And that part of the process is mind-blowing for sure. And he talks about editing Night of the Living Dead and these old reels, physically cutting it together. And it's just such a different process now. It feels like a completely different activity.
Do you have a preference? Like, if you had the chance to go back and shoot like Romero did in the 60s, would you do that, or would you shoot like you would today?
Well, that was kind of one of the questions that the episode wanted to answer, because I've come to film directing kind of later. I'm in my 30s, and I've been an actor for a long time, and so I grew up watching film. Real film was a thing. It's not like I'm a kid, and that was not part of my life. It was, and the idea of filmmaking, was always about actually using film. But then by the time I actually started making films, that was gone. So when I made my first short, there was still kind of conversations about, should we do this on film or digital? And then by the time I made my second short, there was no conversation. Film was not an option at all. You don't even talk about it anymore. So I thought, it just kind of bugged me that I would have no experience whatsoever working with film, and yet, still using the term filmmaker. And so this episode really became my only chance to use it, that I think I'll ever have in my career to actually do it. And then I thought George would be really nostalgic for the thing, and I think he thought he was going to be too. But through the process of trying to recreate it in the exact same way that he made Expostulations, we both, I think, decided that it's much better the way we do things now. I mean, especially the editing process, especially, and just something as simple as, and that we take for granted now, is having playback on set.
Oh yeah.
Being able to see, or even just being able to know that what you shot actually was shot properly and is what you wanted. They wouldn't know until they got the film back days later.
Yeah.
And would just cross their fingers that they made, that they got the shots that they thought they did.
Yeah. Whereas nowadays, you can do visual effects and everything just on the fly, right then and there, and you can tell what it's going to look like just using previs. Whereas film, you had to layer everything on, you had to send it away to be processed. Yeah, I can see the upside.
I mean, it seems the big difference for me, I think, is it feels very much like today making a film is it's so much in your mind, and being able to visualize something in your mind and then you work on it. Whereas back then it feels like it was much more like a craft, almost like being a carpenter or something, because you were working with your hands so much. You know, George talks about being able to know how long a shot is just by holding it in his hand.
Wow.
You know, when you're editing something by hand and creating it like a craft, it just seemed it's a much different experience than I think we have now. Now it just seems it's still a creative process, but it's not so much kind of hands-on kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you also had to be very conscious of how much film you were using with each shot too, because you couldn't go.
Right? Yeah, totally.
Just erase that.
Yeah, he talks about that in the episode for sure.
That's wild. Now, is there anything that's not in the episode that you wish had made the cut?
Well, there are a few things that are actually extras that you can check out online, I believe.
Oh,
we did a few. We actually did a bunch of interviews with some zombies. We put out a call, and you know, Toronto's become this hotbed of zombies, which is crazy. But yeah, so we just put out a call. We were doing the episode, and we kind of did what we call a zombie anonymous, which is a bit like an AA meeting for zombies, and it's a pretty fun little extra webisode. And then we had some stuff at George's house that we couldn't fit into the episode. He's got a pretty massive rubber duck collection.
Really?
which people might not know. Yeah, so I think there's an extra webisode online about George's rubber duck collection.
I love that.
That's a sentence I never thought I would hear right there.
Yeah, I think that's on the Movie Network's website. You can check all those out. I don't think you have to watch those. I don't think you have to have the Movie Network subscription or anything.
Oh man, that's wild.
I want to make him a zombie rubber duck.
Right?
Well, they have, people have sent him. He's got almost a George Romero anything. Someone made him a George Romero puppet that he has that's really impressive. And he's got a George Romero rubber duck for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, having directed this episode, if you guys, and we're assuming you're coming back for a second season, is there anything you'd want to do in the second season?
I mean, I'd love to do another one. This was a really, really fun experience. I'm not sure who I would do, or if I would even get to do one. You know, it was an amazing experience, almost one that I wish more filmmakers would get to experience. So I think for season 2, it'd be great if they'll probably invite other people to get a chance to do it.
Yes.
But have you guys had a chance to see any of the episodes? Because they're all really, really great.
They're actually sitting in my inbox right now, waiting for me to finish the Fringe Festival so I can go home and watch them.
Yeah, exactly.
You just because I'm not part of. I think there are 6 episodes. I'm only part of mine, and so I can unbiasedly say that the rest of the episodes are amazing. And Raj and Chris did such a great job producing these things. And also, I think a special shout out should go out to Matthew Lochner, who has an episode in it, but also played a major role in a lot of the different episodes. He was an editor on mine, and I know he was one of the camera ops on a lot of the other episodes. He's a really creative, smart guy, and his hands are all over the whole series. And it's something I'm really proud to be a part of, because I think they're unlike anything out there, and they're very creative, very artistic. Each episode's very different, but they're very entertaining. So yeah, it was a real honor to be part of it.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys.
Take care.
Take care. Ciao.
Ciao.